Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back into Key Time Sports. It's Key Time coming back to talk about NFL Super Wildcard Weekend from the first game to last night's Monday Night Football action. The very first game of Super Wildcard Weekend was the Chargers and the Texans. Chargers, I don't know what happened, but as you can see, Justin Herbert, 14 of 32, 242 yards, one touchdown, four interceptions. The Chargers, throughout the season, they looked they looked great. And in the first quarter, they looked great. But in the second quarter, on that 3rd and 7, with the Texans backed up, they had a 45-yard gain, and that was the game changing play and a momentum changing play when it comes to the Houston Texans. After that play, everything went the Texans' way. And if if you were watching the game extensively like I was, you can see that because after that play, it seemed like everybody on the Texan sideline and everybody in NRG Stadium was they started to have a sense of enthusiasm and belief that they would be able to get back into this game, and they did. And at halftime, the Texans were leading 10-6 over some offensive deficiencies in the first half, particularly the first quarter, because first quarter they couldn't do anything. Do you all know that in the first quarter they only was able to generate 55 yards? 55 yards. That's all that they was able to generate. And in the next 3 quarters, they pretty much quadrupled that each quarter. And also, to get back to the Chargers, only thing I can say is now they build a blueprint. Jim Harbaugh has built a blueprint for the Chargers. Now going into next season, let's see what they can do as building from this season. Can they go deep into the playoffs next season? Yes. But one thing I have to say about Justin Herbert, he has to improve. It was a lot of times throughout the season where the Chargers would gain 200-300 yards on the ground, and Justin Herbert would have 150, 165 yards through the air. You cannot have Justin Herbert as a franchise quarterback and he's only throwing the ball. It was some games where he would just throw the ball 25, 26 times. Now, credit to the dominating running game that the Chargers have had. But like I said, postseason is different than the regular season. In the postseason, in the playoffs, every possession is that much bigger. Every play is that much bigger because it only takes one play to change the momentum throughout the entirety of the game. Now, as far as Houston, CJ Stroud, he had a few struggles in the first half. 22 of 33, 282 yards, one touchdown, one interception. And as far as the running game for the Houston Texans, it cracked over 100 yards, to be exact, 168. Wide receivers for the Houston Texans, they came on strong in the second half, and basically it was they went on a scoring rampage, scoring 10 in the third quarter and scoring 12 in the fourth quarter, and basically the game was over after before the Texans scored that last touchdown. The game was pretty much over because you had Justin Herbert throwing interceptions galore. So, Chargers, you need to build. You have got to have more running backs other than J.K. Dobbins. You've got to have more wide receivers outside of Lad McConkey. because that's all I heard throughout the entirety of this game. Ladd McConkey had 9 catches, 197 yards, almost had a 200-yard receiving day, which was great for him. The Texans, you all head to Kansas City. That is going to be a tough task in and of itself. Hopefully, the Texans are able to make it a game. I will give my prediction to the divisional round of the playoffs later on in the week. The next game I want to cover is the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. I had a question come in my dashboard yesterday saying that the Pittsburgh Steelers, a question, should the Pittsburgh Steelers get rid of Mike Tomlin? I've been hearing that question over the last 2 or 3 years. And I think that everybody in life and in sports should have a change of scenery. I really do. I think that Mike Tomlin, he is a good coach. He's always had his team in the playoff conversation, whether he's gotten to the playoffs or not. He's always had a winning season. But since I'm going to say, since after that Super Bowl that he won versus the Cardinals, as far as his postseason record, it has been dwindling. Now he is 8-11 in playoff games. Now, one thing I can say about the Pittsburgh Steelers, they don't develop quarterbacks. They don't develop franchise quarterbacks as much. Now they develop Terry Bradshaw and they develop Ben Roethlisberger. Ben Roethlisberger, he came in 2004 under Bill Cowher. Now, basically, Mike Tomlin inherited, everybody knows that, Mike Tomlin inherited the team from Bill Cowher. And they was able to win a Super Bowl just a couple of years later. But now, since Ben Roethlisberger has retired, it has just been a revolving door at quarterback. The defense has been the same. They have been top-notch throughout the season. They have been top-notch basically throughout Mike Tomlin's head coaching tenure there. But, sometimes after so long, you're doing the same thing over and over. It starts to become like a routine, and you just need something new. You just do. You need something new, and I believe the Pittsburgh Steelers, they probably need a new voice in the locker room. Now, Mike Tomlin, if he leaves the Pittsburgh Steelers, there are going to be at least 5 teams on speed dial trying to get in touch with Mike Tomlin for them to coach. Because all of a sudden I see players like, George Pickens saying that he doesn't have much enthusiasm going into next season when it comes to this offensive scheme that they have made in Pittsburgh. Russell Wilson, he has enthusiasm of coming back. I don't know if you bring back Justin Fields, because Justin Fields, earlier in the season, Justin Fields was doing stuff here and there, but the Pittsburgh Steelers, they need a franchise quarterback. That's what they need. A franchise quarterback, somebody to help out George Pickens. They also need somebody to help out Najee Harris, because Najee Harris, he is an every down back, but it is good to have a few reserve running backs and a few reserve wide receivers. It is. It is good to have that. Now, Pittsburgh Steelers have a lot of decision making to do. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they are another old-fashioned organization. They build from within. They don't too much bring somebody from free agency into their locker room. Now you see teams like You see these top teams in the AFC like Baltimore, for example, Kansas City, Houston, paying these free agents big bucks to come and play for them. But the Pittsburgh Steelers, they haven't done that. Only thing they've been doing is Russell Wilson. He's gotten the veterans minimum of $1 million when he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. Justin Fields also, he got a little minimum when it comes to playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers this season. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a lot of changes to do, and they got to start making them right now, because you cannot have the same team going into next season. Well, basically, you cannot have the same team going into off-season training camp, off-season mini camp, and training camp, because somehow, if the Steelers still have this team going into August and September of this year, I believe the fans, they gonna throw in the towel on the season. They gonna say, yes, we gonna chop it up to another winning season, but a failed playoff success, because that's what it's been like for the last 3 years. So that's all I got to say for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now I'm going to shift over to the Baltimore Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 21, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And Derrick Henry was a one-man wrecking crew. He had 186 yards this season, including playoffs. When Derrick Henry runs for over 90-plus yards, the Ravens are 11-0. That including the playoff game Saturday night. Now, I said Isaiah Likely would have to take over this game because of Zay Flowers, and that's exactly what he did. He had 3 catches for 53 yards, and his longest reception was 25 yards. Now, as far as the Ravens, they are going into Buffalo. This is the battle that we have all been looking for. The battle of the potential MVPs. You got Lamar Jackson and you got Josh Allen. Josh Allen, he has done more with a whole lot less. And Josh Allen has done more with a lot less. He only has Keon Coleman and Amari Cooper at wide receiver, not to mention he got Dalton Kincaid at tight end too. And also for Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, don't know if he is going to start. He's got Isaiah Likely, Mark Andrews, and he's got a bevy of tight ends and running backs. The main running back is Derrick Henry. So the Ravens and the Buffalo Bills, this is going to be a close game no matter what. I'm not going to give my prediction right now. I'm going to save that for later on in the week. But this game, as far as third down situations, the Ravens were 10 of 15. The Steelers were 5 of 11 on third down. Fourth down, Pittsburgh Steelers was 0 for 1. And the Ravens, they didn't even attempt a third down. Now, the Ravens, this is what they wanted. This is what they are going to have to do. They are going to have to go into Buffalo and find a way to come out of there with a win. The next game I'm going to cover is the Broncos and the Buffalo Bills. Now, Broncos, one thing I can say is I am possibly the only one in the sports field that said that the Broncos would get 10 wins. Everybody else had the Broncos at 5 wins, or the most they had is 6 wins. I didn't expect the Broncos to make the playoffs, but I said that they would win 10 games. So now we see that this was a This was a year of where the Broncos and Sean Payton were building the blocks. As you can see, Bo Nix, he was 13 or 22, 144 yards, one touchdown, zero interceptions. The rushing game for the Broncos was they had 79 yards. The rushing game for the Buffalo Bills, they had 210 yards. Josh Allen, 20 or 26, 272 yards, two touchdowns, zero interceptions. Now, when we see what the Broncos did and what the Buffalo Bills did, basically scoring 31 unanswered points. Now, the Broncos, they are going to be a team that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I expect coming in the next season that it is going to be a three-team race in the AFC West. It's going to be the Chiefs. We already know that. The Chargers and the Broncos. That's what it's going to be in the AFC West. That's what it's going to be. Now, as far as the Buffalo Bills, they proved all doubters wrong. I had the Buffalo Bills limping in the playoffs coming into the season because I just didn't think that they would be able to generate the type of yards and wins that they have. But Josh Allen, he is basically he can work miracles out of less because you see as far as he's basically built these guys up. Curtis Samuel, before this season, nobody didn't know who Curtis Samuel was. Khalil Shakir is another one. Dalton Kincaid, we know that the Bills got him in the draft. Amari Cooper, we know that they got him in the draft. Mac Hollins, he was just an average wide receiver before he came to the Buffalo Bills. Keon Coleman, they got him in the draft. So the Buffalo Bills, they are able to go to the divisional round. Now, it's almost a toss-up between who is going to win the battle between MVPs, whether it's Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Third down efficiency in this game for the Buffalo Bills, they were 8 of 15. The Broncos were 2 of 9. So, Broncos, this is a rebuilding year. You'll be back. Mainly, you will be back in the playoffs next year, hopefully. I like what Sean Payton is doing. Sean Payton is getting these guys, making them believe. Broncos were able to make the playoffs in a season where nobody projected them to make the playoffs. And for a second there in the game versus Buffalo, they had a chance at making it a game, but they didn't. That's the price of gaining experience. Sometimes when you gain experience, you're going to have hiccups along the road. Like I said, when I first started this, I had hiccups along the road. But I've been in this for 2 years, and now I'm ready to expand. Now everybody is ready to expand. The Buffalo Bills, they are able to go to the divisional round, and they will play the Baltimore Ravens next. The next game I'm going to cover is the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia, they were struggling. I mean, for a good quarter and a half, they couldn't do nothing on offense. Jalen Hurts, he came back from injury, 13 of 21, 131 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Jordan Love, 20 of 33, 212 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Green Bay Packers rushing barely cracked over 100 yards, same as Philadelphia. They had 169 yards. Saquon Barkley had 119 yards. Now, turnovers in this game were very critical because this was basically a This was a defensive slugfest, a defensive showdown. Whatever you want to call this game, as far as on the defensive side, that is exactly what it was. Now, the Eagles, in this case, they are going to have to do more. They are going to have to do more on offense because we saw what the Rams did last night. And the Eagles and Rams, they are going to play each other this coming weekend. As far as the Green Bay Packers passing defense, they got to get better. Run defense, they have to get better. And Jordan Love, he has to get better because he likes to throw the ball in tight windows a lot. He really does. And it was two of those interceptions where he basically threw it to right to the Eagles defender. No Packer was in 5-10 yards of two of those passes that came up to be interceptions. So now we see what the Packers have done as far as throughout the season, and we see what the Eagles have done. As far as third down in this situation, the Eagles were bad, but they were fortunate to win this game because they were 2 of 11 on third down. And the Green Bay Packers was 7 of 13 on third down. So, like I always said, a team's conversion rate, as far as it being 2 of 11, 3 of 11, is supposed to lose, but the Eagles didn't lose because they had a good defense. They were able to turn the Packers over 3 times, and they scored field goals off of 3 of those possessions, and that's why they are moving on to the divisional round. The next game I'm going to cover is the Washington Commanders and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Congratulations to Washington on winning your first playoff game, in almost 20 years. Jayden Daniels, he has pretty much built that team from the ground up, and he's basically making this team a force to be reckoned with. The Washington Commanders are now a force to be reckoned with, ladies and gentlemen. The Washington Commanders, they are going to be in the thick of things come next season. Jayden Daniels, 24 of 35, 268 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And one other thing that I like about the Washington Commanders game plan is they went for it on 4th down most of the time in this game, whether it was 4th and 1, 4th and inches, or a 4th and 3. Jayden Daniels said, no, we're not kicking field goals. We are going to go for the jugular and go for the end zone and get a touchdown. And a couple of times they did that in the game. And plus, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield, 15 of 18, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Now the Buccaneers played a great game too, but those turnovers is what hurt the Buccaneers. Now the Washington Commanders, this was the upset of Super Wild Card Weekend. It really was, because we didn't expect the turnover from week 1, because week 1 the Commanders played the Buccaneers and Jayden Daniels was just trying to find himself. The improvement from week 1 up until now is astronomical when it comes to Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels also, he knows when to run and he knows when to pass. As far as his running, he had 36 yards on the ground. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I had said that over the last couple of months, as far as run defenses, they had defensive lapses when it comes to their run defense. And it showed it showed in this game a little bit. It did. So the Buccaneers going into next season, what do you do? Do you build from within, try and get more wide receivers, more tight ends, and do you try and get more offensive linemen? Or do you bring everybody back? But one thing I have got to say, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you got to help out Mike Evans. Mike Evans, congratulations to Mike Evans on another season, 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards. But somebody else has got to take the bulk of the load, because going into every game plan, when a team faces the Buccaneers, they know going into every game plan they only have to focus on Mike Evans. That really is the main domino to focus on. Not trying to disrespect any of the other wide receivers or tight ends, but you know who is going to do the most damage is Mike Evans. So in this situation, the Buccaneers in the draft, they need to work on getting a wide receiver, getting another tight end to help out Cade Otton and everything. But the Buccaneers, they are one of those average teams that you know they could get to the wild card year after year or get to the divisional round, but you don't see them making it further than the divisional round in the playoffs. So, Washington Commanders, third down efficiency, 8 of 15. Buccaneers, 5 of 9 on third down. So, the Buccaneers in this case, they know what they have to do. Todd Bowles know what he has to do. The Washington Commanders, y'all are heading to Motown to face the Detroit Lions this coming weekend, and that is going to be a great game. I can say that when it comes to the Washington Commanders defense, I believe that they can keep this game close, but in the end, I expect the Detroit Lions to take over this game. I'm not going to give my prediction to any of the divisional games yet. I will save that for later on in the show. Now, the last game I am going to cover is the LA Rams and Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Viking fans, I just have one thing to say. Until the Vikings can show me that they are a legitimate playoff threat and a championship contender, I am going to say this year in and year out. The Minnesota Vikings are just an average team with championship aspirations. That's all. The Minnesota Vikings started out the season 7-0. Not 7-0, but 5-0. And everybody was telling me on this show, Key Time, you might need to put the Vikings up there you might need to put the Vikings up there at the top of your board. At the top of your board of lists of Super Bowl contenders. And I kept on saying no. On my other show, Key City Sports, they were saying the exact same thing. You might need to put the Vikings up there as one of the top teams for the Super Bowl. And I had said no, because at the end of the day, the Vikings are just an average team. Sam Darnold, I said early in the season, week 5, week 6, I said Sam Darnold is playing great. But I'm like, when it gets to the playoffs, it is going to be a different story, and that is what it was last night. Sam Darnold, 25 of 40, 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Matthew Stafford, 19 of 27, 209 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And another thing I want to say, all of the wildfires that are happening in LA, everybody that is associated with Key Time Sports and my other show, everybody that's associated with Key City Sports, we are praying for you, California. You are going to get out from under this. Everybody who has lost their homes, who has lost their precious valuables, I pray for you. I pray that you can get your life back in order, because this has been some catastrophic wildfires. It really has been. Now back to the game. This game was moved from LA, from Inglewood to Arizona because of the wildfires. And I believe basically the Rams dug deep last night because of those wildfires. And just to put a face on the LA natives, just to get their minds off of what's going on in California. That is what that I believe that's what this game was about. I really do. So the Rams, they are headed to they are headed to Philadelphia to play the Eagles. That is gonna be an intriguing game too. And before I get out of here, I want to cover the coaching, the head coaching vacancies too. But before I do that, I'm going to get back to the third down efficiency in this game. 6 of 17 for the Minnesota Vikings, 2 of 10 on third down for the LA Rams. This game was 24-3 at halftime, and the game was basically over at halftime because the Vikings couldn't do nothing on offense. So the Rams and the Eagles, they play next. They play this coming weekend. So now, let me get to the head coaching vacancies, when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and the Chicago Bears. And also, let me talk about the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel, I like the hire. He is a good team builder. He is a guy he is a guy that can get young guys enthusiastic about the season. And like I said, the New England Patriots, they already have their quarterback, Drake May. Now you have to get some legitimate wide receivers, every down running back, some tight ends, and you have to build that defensive line back. You have to build that defensive line back to the type of image that it once had under Bill Belichick and under Tom Brady. So Mike Vrabel, I like the hire, what Rob Kraft has done. Also, let me shift on over to the Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears coaching vacancy is still at a standstill. Cliff Kingsbury, the Chicago Bears have reached out to Cliff Kingsbury. They are also, I believe they tried reaching out to Mike McCarthy, which leads into my final topic. My favorite football team, the Dallas Cowboys, they had to do what needed to be done. I'm going to say for the last 2 years. It was parting ways with Mike McCarthy. I heard after last week, basically Thursday and Friday of last week, they couldn't come to an agreement. Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones couldn't come to a contractual agreement. So now his contract expires today at noon. So as of right now, it is 10:31 Eastern time. So in the next hour and a half, Mike McCarthy will no longer be the Cowboys head coach. So now, what does Jerry Jones need as far as in the next head coach? He needs an established head coach. He needs somebody who has already been on the NFL spectrum when it comes to coaching. He needs that, because you cannot have a young guy come in, an offensive coordinator or a defensive coordinator, and have these veterans to try and believe in this next head coach. You need somebody. There are names that I'm hearing. Somebody along the lines of Pete Carroll, Rex Ryan, Ron Rivera, somebody like that who is aggressive in the games when they need to be. Mike McCarthy, at times, he was a little passive aggressive when it comes to what does the team need as far as on the field. And in late game situations, Mike McCarthy wasn't always at his brightest moments in late game situations. He really wasn't. So as far as the Dallas Cowboys, they need a grit and grimy. Their next head coach needs to be grit and grimy. Me as a Dallas Cowboy fan, I'm rejuvenated. Jerry, my offer is still on the table. My offer is still on the table, Jerry. If you need some help, as far as building a team, trying to get running backs, trying to get wide receivers to help out CeeDee Lamb, trying to get a quarterback, a reliable backup quarterback if Dak Prescott goes down again. You got to please reach out to me. Please reach out to me because I am a diehard Cowboys fan and I don't like where the Dallas Cowboys are at this particular moment in time. And with that, those are my reactions to Super Wildcard Weekend, and those are my takes to the head coaching vacancies around the NFL. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to Key Time Sports. Also, please like, share, and follow Key City Sports on Instagram. And one last thing, remember the key is always on time.